All right, everyone, thank you so much to our first speaker, Dr. Alui Hare. If you're just joining in, welcome to Spark 2021. My name is Natalie Kim, and I'm a member of Project Hype. Our next speaker up is Dr. Kiser. She is a first-generation high school graduate, and she is currently a mathematics professor and math center director at San Diego City College. So whenever you're ready, Dr. Kiser, the webinar is all yours.
Thank you, Natalie. Good morning, everyone. Do I have sharing capabilities? I actually have a PowerPoint.
Yes, you do.
Okay, perfect. Let me share my screen. Good morning again, everyone. My name is Dr. Kiser, and as Natalie mentioned, I am a math professor at San Diego City College, as well as the director of the Math Center, which is just a tutoring center for students to attend. Before I get into my profession, my career, it would be unlike me to go talk about my experience and my upbringing a little bit. I am a middle child of 3. My mom was a single mom who worked hard to raise 3 kids on her own. Where I grew up at, my neighborhood was infested with drugs, gangs, violence, and hopelessness. So for me, education was my way out of my neighborhood. I stayed focused on my education, and I just continued to work hard. And as a result, that opened up doors for me to bring me to where I am today. I am a first generation high school, so the first person in my family to graduate from high school, and the only person in my family to obtain a 4-year college degree. And why become a math professor? For me personally, teaching, I've always loved teaching ever since I was a kid. And I genuinely love helping others out. So for me, teaching was the only way to merge my 2 passions. I will go into a little bit about my background. So as I mentioned before, I am first generation high school, the only college grad in my family. A little bit about my education trajectory. I received my bachelor's degree from San Diego State. So my bachelor's, my teaching credential, which is required if you want to teach high school math, you have to get a teaching credential first. And I also received 2 master's degrees all from San Diego State University. And I received my doctorate degree from UCSD. I want to talk a little bit about challenges. So a lot of people, when they learn that I majored in math and I teach math, they think that everything just came easy for me, and that is not the case. I've worked my butt off, both inside the classroom, outside the classroom. But if I had to choose a challenge that really stuck with me and also helped me become the woman I am today, is the first thing is professors not believing in me. And at first, I was very, very hurt at this and wondering why they didn't believe in me. Was it the way I looked, or was it the way I talked? I didn't know exactly what it was until it was confirmed for me. Before I go into these bullets, I would like to go a little bit deeper into my story. It is very heartbreaking for me. So as a result, I wrote it in a form of a story. So I'm going to actually read that to you today. And this is very close and dear to my heart. I've only shared it with a few people. Again, it is very difficult to even read. So if I pause while reading it, just give me some time, because it literally takes me back to that very moment when this actually happened to me. But I promise you I will finish the story. Okay. So the title of my story is called "I Can Show You Better Than I Can Tell You." Is a terminal degree a realistic aspiration for a young Black female who grew up in the projects? Was I prepared to compete with white women? Did I have the will and the courage to find my voice? I am a first generation high school graduate. I am the only person in my family to graduate from college. Education is extremely important to me. It was my way out of my neighborhood, which was infected with drugs, gangs, violence, and hopelessness. I have always been focused in school and tried my best to succeed. Since I can remember, I have always wanted to be a math teacher. I love helping others and I love math. So I merged my 2 passions and applied to the teaching credential program. After graduating with my bachelor's degree in mathematics from San Diego State University, I applied to the teaching credential program so I can pursue my passion of teaching high school mathematics. Instead of receiving an acceptance letter into the program, I received a letter requesting that I interview for the program. I was excited because it was the opportunity. This opportunity was a chance for me to share my passion for teaching, learning, and helping others. When I arrived, I noticed a counter on the left and a small conference area to the right. Two white women were seated next to each other. The one on the right was petite. She had brown eyes. Her hair was cut into a short bob. I later learned that her name was Dr. Crabtree. For the sake of this story, I need to stop and say that these are pseudonames. So I'm not saying actual names of professors, and I will continue now. I later learned that her name was Dr. Crabtree. The other woman, Dr. White, had ash brown hair pulled back into a ponytail. When I entered the room, neither of them greeted me or extended their hand. I sat in the chair facing them. Dr. Crabtree said, "Tracey, you among a few applicants who have been randomly selected to participate in this interview. We reviewed your transcripts and application, but we have a few additional questions." I was excited because I was finally getting a chance to share my interest in teaching and learning. I had anticipated possible questions they would ask me. I even prepared a list of responses. As I sat in my chair, I noticed that they had my official transcripts right next to them. Dr. Crabtree picked up my transcripts and asked, "I see you've completed mathematics for high school students. Can you tell me a little bit about your experience in that course?" I responded with confidence. Dr. Crabtree asked all the questions. Dr. White never uttered a word, and her eyes would not meet my gaze. Dr. Crabtree asked, "In the spring, it looks like you received a D in Math 501. What happened?" Before I can respond to explain to her that was a semester I became very ill and pointed her to the B that I received after retaking the course the following semester, she quickly interrupted. "Are you sure this profession is for you?" "Excuse me," I asked, confused and puzzled. "You know," she said, eyebrows raised and her head slightly tilted after what seemed like an inordinary pause. She continued, "Because of the way you talk." I was quite surprised. I certainly was not expecting that observation, but I responded, "What do you mean by the way I talk?" "How do I talk?" Dr. Crabtree retorted, "I've examined your transcripts. You're good at math, but I'm concerned with your ability to cogently explain the content to students so that students can understand." I looked her straight in the eyes and I said, "I can show you better than I can tell you." "Okay, Tracey, we will be notifying successful applicants into the next 2 weeks. Thank you for coming in." I walked out of that interview feeling like my language was inadequate. I left wondering if what she said to me was true. If so, why was I just now hearing it? I began to question my work ethic and determination, all because a stranger doubted me. I was accepted into the teaching credential program. Upon entering the program, one of my classes was actually with Dr. Crabtree. I must say I was terrified, yet I was determined to show her that what I was capable of. As a result of being terrified, I stopped speaking and asking questions in class unless it was required of me. My silence spoke loudest in my writing assignments and my presentations. As time passed in the class, I was able to meet and establish relationships with my cohorts. Every time I introduced myself to someone in the class, I will ask them about their interview. No one in my class had any idea what I was talking about. I was the only one who was interviewed. At this point, I became furious, but I continued to work hard. Towards the end of the course, I presented my final presentation with a classmate. Immediately following our presentation, Dr. Crabtree walked up to me and whispered, "Tracey, I'm so proud of you. I can't believe we almost didn't admit you into the program." It took so much out of me to smile and say thank you, I almost cried. Not only did I become silenced in her class, I did not speak in any of my other classes. I had a fixed mindset in my ability to speak and write. Yet I did not let that stop me from pursuing my dreams. As a result of studying in a doctoral program at UCSD and pursuing my passion to help underrepresented students, I am no longer silenced because I have to be the voice for them. I am a product of poverty. I am a product of Southeast San Diego. My mother was a single parent to 3. Witnessing her struggle and being surrounded by drugs, gangs, violence, and hopelessness motivated me to break the generational curse through education. I am a living testimony for students who come from low-income families, neighborhoods that are contaminated, and a government that has given up on them, that they can not only make it out of their situation, but they can also succeed. I could have walked out of that interview completely defeated. Instead, I pressed my way so that I can help pave the way for others. This is what ignites my spark. Okay, so that is my story, and that goes into, it helps me to be able to say it without tearing up or breaking down. And so I wrote it in form of a story. And let me get back to my slides. So I had to really push myself. Just imagine trying to complete a program or complete school, and you know the very professor whose class you're sitting in is doubting you. And it doesn't have to be school necessarily. It can be just life in general. We go through things, we experience things, people say hurtful things to us, but you can't let that stop you. So also, as a result of my experience, and me being the only Black person in math classes, I developed what we call an imposter syndrome. I began to question if I even belonged in these courses. Why was I the only one that looked like me? What's wrong with this picture? So all of those things caused me to kind of silence myself and not really ask questions or speak, but then I just worked hard behind the scenes and worked hard in my writing and in my mathematics classes. And I really produced a fixed mindset until I was in my doctoral program and I had to share my story. So me sharing my story, it's very new for me. Okay, now that you've learned a little bit about me and my story, I'm going to talk a little bit about my employment history. So right out of high school, I went straight to college and I received my bachelor's degree in math and my credential, and I immediately started teaching. So I was very young when I started teaching high school math. And I taught high school math up until 2016 when I transferred to San Diego City College and became a math professor. So I taught high school math for a while, which is where my heart is. I almost didn't leave the high school because I didn't want to leave my students, but I realized they were going to leave me eventually because they were graduating, right? So me transitioning to the high school is just a part of my purpose, and I had to follow that. My future career goals. So my future career goals are to become a dean, vice president, president of a college. So for me, at first, when I transferred to City College, I was thinking to myself, okay, I'm just going to teach math. I'll direct the math center. I wasn't thinking about these other positions, but I realized in order to help make change, I believe they need people in these positions who actually care about students and care about their learning. We live in this one size fit all approach to teaching and learning, and it does not fit the learning needs and styles for all of our students. So that is the reason why I want to transition eventually, not now, because like I said, my heart is, and it thrives for the classroom, for students, for serving students, and just being there for them. For me, knowing my students is primary. The content is secondary. Math just got me through the door. This is how I see it. Math just got me through the door. But once I'm in that classroom, it's about building students' confidence, building relationships. All of those things is what students can take with them and apply to the rest of their lives. And so my heart still thrives for the classroom, and these are future goals. I'm not sure exactly when I want to transition, but I do have a plan for moving forward. And so the moral of this is just to never stop dreaming. You may have in your mind, once I become a doctor or a scientist and I'll stop. You never know what other doors are going to open. So never stop dreaming. Okay. As a result of this conference, I try to come up with something that can be helpful for everyone. It doesn't matter what you're pursuing. It doesn't have to be mathematics, so that you can continuously ignite your spark. And I came up with an acronym, and I'm going to just break it down for you, and then we will go into questions and answers. So the first thing for the S, I came up with seek. And what I mean by seek is, first you need to figure out, what do you desire to become, to create, to change in this world. You have to figure out what it is that you love to do. I went to some scholarship event in 7th grade, and I was at a table with a group of 7th graders, and we had a mentor at the table, and his question to me was, where will you be in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years? And I was able to tell him what I desired in 7th grade. And I'm actually doing the things that I said I desired back in 7th grade. I wanted to be a high school teacher. I didn't know about college and then pursuing a position as a president of a college or a vice president, but I knew for sure I wanted to teach way back in 7th grade. And so I'm not saying you have to know now, but start thinking about these things. Time flies. One minute you're in elementary school, middle school, high school, college, you're a young adult. Time keeps going. So you want to be thinking about these things early on. Next is plan. Once you figure out what it is that you love or that you want to change or become in this world, develop a plan for accomplishing your dreams. It's not just going to come to us, right? We have to work at this. And then how long would your plan take? You may be off on the timing, but the key here is that you're thinking about it and you're initiating a plan. You can always revise a plan, but if you don't have a plan to begin with, what are you going to work with? And stick with your dreams and goals, even if they seem impossible. Change or revise the plan before you think about giving up on your goals. I could have given up back then when I was doubted by 2 strangers because of the way I talked, right? And if I did, I wouldn't be here today speaking to you all. I wouldn't be a math professor at a college. I wouldn't be the director of a math center had I given up years ago. Activate. What steps are you going to take to activate your plan? So we can have a plan, we can write a plan all day long. We have our goals, or even though if we have our weekly, if you write down a weekly plan and you don't activate it to initiate that plan, it just becomes words on a piece of paper or words typed on a computer. So you have to put in work. You have to put in the necessary work to make sure that your plan is activated. Remember, it's your plan. And then this goes back to what I was saying. What work are you willing to put in to ensure that your plan is a success? And also, what are you willing to sacrifice? I had to sacrifice a lot. I didn't really hang out. I didn't party. I was always studying in the library. Now, people study differently, but that was what I felt like I needed to do to stay focused. So I wouldn't get caught up in what was surrounded by me, right? The neighborhood that I grew up in, it's easy to get caught up into other things, super easy. So I had to stay focused. And what helped me was education. What helped me was my plan. What helped me were my goals. What helped me was me trying to work hard to be able to help my mom, who was a single parent. So I had a lot of things I asked my students, what is your why? Why do you want to be a doctor? Why do you want to be a teacher or a lawyer? Why do you want to be these things? So my why kept me focused. And you will have to sacrifice. And for those who are around you, who love you, who understand your passion and your goal, they will not make you feel bad for sacrificing for something that's going to help you in your future. Research. Depending on what you're interested in, what research always is already out there in the field. Start to become familiar with, again, you're in high school, but it's never too early to start. You're never too young to start. Before you know it, you're going to be in college. And so what's already out there in the field in which you're interested in pursuing? Are there any gaps in the research? This is where you can be more creative. If there's gaps that you want to close in the research, then this is where you step in and you put forth whatever effort you need to make sure that you help close the gaps in the research. What problems need solutions? And what does your gifts and where does your gifts and talents stand out? I think a lot of times we focus on how can we fit in, depending on our gifts and talents. No, how can you stand out? How can you be a misfit? There's nothing wrong with that. You stand out because everyone in this conference is uniquely gifted, regardless of what your mindset says, regardless of what you think. There's something down on the inside of you that stands out from everybody else in this room. And that is what makes you you. Knowledge. And for me, the knowledge is just to never stop learning. I am learning every single day, and which may change my plan a little bit, but only to enhance my plan. So you never stop learning. And if you, so my acronym is just related to the conference, SPARK. If you seek, plan, activate, research, and knowledge on a continual basis, this is what happens. When you continuously learn, you continuously seek. When you continuously seek, you continuously plan. When you continuously plan, you continuously activate. When you continuously activate, you continuously research. When you continuously research, you continuously gain knowledge. If this cycle never ends, then you will continuously ignite your spark. Even if your plan changes, let's say you said you want to be something and then you change your mind later on. This process shouldn't change. It's just a new plan and a new goal. But the process of being able to apply this to, you can take this process, I believe, and apply it to every single thing in your life. So this acronym that I came up with, I had to think about what I went through. This is what I did to accomplish my goals. And this is what I'm continuing to do to accomplish my goals. You don't just get one goal and then you're done. Stuff is going to pop up as you grow, and as you live, and as you gain more wisdom and insight. Okay, I don't know where I'm at with time, but these were the pre-submitted questions I was going to answer, or I can just skip to allowing the students to just ask me questions.
You have some time left, so we have 3 questions right now in the chat, and then, or you can answer the ones that you already have.
Okay, let's start. I don't know how much time I have left, so I can come back to this. So let's start with whatever questions that are already in the chat. I want to make sure I address those first.
All right, we'll go ahead and answer or ask some of these questions in the Q&A section. So our first question is from an anonymous attendee, and it says, do you have any advice for high school students interested in entering the field of teaching?
Yes, so this kind of goes back to my advice here. And I know this pre-existing question was high schoolers who may be interested in your career. So, and for me, what I try to do, because there may be students on here who are not interested in my career, right? So I try to make it more general so that it applies to whatever you're interested in. But specifically, let me address the teaching one. For teaching, I would recommend that, first of all, know exactly what content level you want or what grade level, right? Because if it's K through 6, then you're looking at multiple subjects versus 7 through 12, you're looking at a single subject. So once you know what subject you're interested in, again, it goes back to have your plan, seek the knowledge, seek your plan, and then try to shadow. If you have time to tutor, whatever, so that also helped me out. I was tutoring since elementary school. I was helping with math, even students older than me, students younger than me, and students in my grade level. I will help out at an early age. So I would say start tutoring in that field because that helps you gain knowledge on the struggles. just because you know math and you can do math doesn't mean you can teach it. It doesn't make you a great teacher. So you have to really gain that experience. And I think what helped me is my upbringing and just helping out kids in the neighborhood. So I would say definitely do research in whatever field you want to do. Start to apply that. Apply for a job in tutoring. And then that gains experience. You build your resume early, and then it makes it easier when you transition into the classroom.
Great, thank you so much. Our next question is from Lily R. And it says, what is your favorite thing about math and why did you choose that subject?
So for me, math always came easy to me. My favorite thing about math is the organization and structure of mathematics. And that, yes, you can have different ways to solve a problem, but you do arrive at a solution. And it's kind of the way I live my life as well. I'm very well, my mind operates. I have to be organized. When things are all over the place, something as simple as my desktop on the computer, if it's all over the place, I get anxiety, I freak out. It's not good for me. So I think what I really loved about math is that there's a unique, different ways of solving a problem, which helps you gain, depending on how you solve it, may help you gain a better understanding of it. And the most important thing for me in mathematics is, based on research, it doesn't matter what your major is. Math is a #1 predictor of whether you succeed or fail in college. And I wanted to be the one to help change that. That should not be the case, right? Math should be a gateway, not a barrier. And so for me, because I believe I have a unique way of breaking down content, I have a unique way of being understanding, I have a unique way of serving students and just people in general. All that mixed together is uniquely who I am, and I can bring all of that into the classroom. And that's what I like about mathematics. It's more than just the content.
Great, thank you. Our next question is another anonymous question, and it says, was there anyone that helped you through the hardships in your life?
Yes. So I have a nice little tight-knit circle. The first person is my mom. My mom, although she didn't finish college, she was always there, like, you could do it, believe in yourself. I want you to be like me, but better than me. And my mom always, and to this day, she's still there. And as a result of me finishing school, remember, I'm first generation high school. My mom has went back to college. My sister went back to school. So you never know who's watching you. You never know who you are inspiring. The very woman I was looking up to was also looking up to me, just in a different area, right? And so my mom, and then just people in my neighborhood, they understand. Like I said, when someone understands your passion, they won't jeopardize that. I have friends, when I will go outside and play, if they were doing something they weren't supposed to, oh, Tracy's coming, let's put that away. So people who genuinely love and support you will do what it takes to make sure you succeed. And then along the way in college, although I shared my experience that challenged me with those professors, I can name a list of professors who were there to support me and actually believed in me.
Great. We have a lot of questions actually.
Okay.
Yeah, so our next question is, what is your favorite part of mathematics? So I guess what subject under mathematics is your favorite to teach or practice?
I think I have different. So I think for me, algebraic concepts, because those, you need to be solid. Whether you're taking calculus, it doesn't matter what you're taking. If you're not solid with the algebraic skills and concepts, you will struggle. Most students struggle in calculus because they have difficulty with the algebra component. And so just knowing that math builds, and I can say I can pull a little bit out of each that I like. But for sure, knowing the basics and the foundations opens up doors for your understanding of the concepts that may be deemed more difficult or more challenging.
Great. Our next question is, what are some study tips you found helpful when studying math?
So for me, I'm going to be transparent here. I would say I didn't start studying for math in my math classes until I got to my transfer level courses. Like I said, math just really came easy for me. But also on the flip side of that, I just knew how to do math, right? So I didn't have to study, and just came easy. I knew how to do it. But then when I came to classes where I had to apply the conceptual understanding, I struggled. Why? Because it was just rote memorization, and I was good at breaking it down, explaining it, helping students. But if I had to go back and explain why things worked in the beginning, I struggled with that. So in retrospect, going back, although it came easy to me, and I know there are some of you on here that may come easy to you, go back and get an understanding and make sure you understand why things are working the way they do, because when you get into more abstract courses, it makes sense. It connects on a different level. And so for studying techniques, I would just say spend time. Even if you feel like you have the material, spend time studying on a daily basis. And if every day is too much, at least 3 to 4 times a week you're studying the mathematics. Learn how to read your textbook, because when you get in college, it's different than high school. And again, I can say that because I taught high school and I'm now teaching college. The expectation for you to be able to read a textbook and get through the mathematics is much greater than at the high school. You know, at the high school, teachers, we really work hard. We break down it's almost like spoon feeding for the most part. If I will be real here with you all and transparent, but in college, it flips. So really get an understanding, form study groups. This is one thing that I wish I would have done in high school. Form study groups at an early age, because again, in college, that's what you'll be doing. You'll be forming study groups, attending a tutoring center. You'll have all these different tools. If you start at the high school level, you'll have it at the college level as well. And take notes in class. And I know we are teaching via Zoom, and it may not be what you want. It may be boring. You have to find a way to stay focused.
All right, and our very last question for today. We just want to thank you so much for your time, Dr. Kiser.
No problem.
It was, how would you describe your stress level as a math teacher, and was there any pressure? And then I know there is one more question over here. We'll go ahead and ask that question right after you answer this one.
Okay. Did you say my stress level?
Yeah, your stress levels as a math teacher. And I guess to kind of expand, like, how have those stress levels changed due to the pandemic situation?
Okay. So my stress level has, and this is from when I first started teaching. I think it's just a gift that I have. I naturally walked in the classroom. I started teaching when I was young. I had just turned 22. And so for me, and I have students who I was 4 years older than them, right? And so for me, teaching was already natural, and it could be because of what I did growing up in the neighborhood. So I never felt stress teaching, even till today. The stress doesn't come from teaching. The stress may come from the outside factors, the top-down approach to learning, maybe a lot of other like professional development or meetings outside of my teaching, but teaching is actually what relieves my stress. So I don't really have, I love teaching, even with my online classes, teaching via Zoom. I have a choice to teach synchronous, which is kind of like what we're doing via Zoom, or asynchronous, which is like purely online. I prefer synchronous because that's what drives me, just to see my students and interact with students and making sure they get it. So I've never had stress while teaching, if that makes sense, even at the high school level. I click like this, and maybe it's because I generally care about students and I put them first, and then the mathematics is secondary, right? And so I'm sorry, I haven't had that while teaching.
Well, that's really great to hear, actually. And so I guess our last question is, did you always get good grades in math?
Yes. Besides the time when I was sick, as I mentioned in my story, I got a D, and then I went back and took the grade. I retook the class for a better grade. Outside of that, I've always gotten good grades, not just in math. Like I told you, for me, education was my way out. So I was so focused. I knew that I had to do well, right? And so I just worked hard. I just work hard naturally, and yeah, I don't know. I haven't gotten bad grades, I would say.
All right, thank you so much for sharing, Dr. Kiser. Your story is so powerful, and I'm sure I'm not the only one here that was super inspired by what you had to say today.